Hi, welcome to America Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. The world needs dreamers. Unless it's the United States, then they're not wanted. Dreamers is a name for children of people who immigrated illegally into the United States. Since they were children when they were brought to the United States, many have spent most of their lives here. But since their legal status was, they don't have any legal status, they face deportation at any time back to countries they barely remember and often don't even know the language. Then, in 2012, then-President Barack Obama launched the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals policy, otherwise known as DACA. It was a renewable 2-year permit that gave the estimated 800,000 dreamers the ability to work legally in the United States, access to Social Security and Medicare, and best of all, they wouldn't risk getting deported. Now, when the Obama administration rolled this out, a lot of these young people were skeptical. The government vigorously promoted it, encouraging them to apply for the program, and stated that the information they provided about themselves or family members would not be used for immigration enforcement purposes absent special circumstances. Well, meet special circumstances. Many in the U.S. felt that DACA was really caca, that it took jobs away from Americans, put a strain on schools and hospitals, and incentivized illegal immigration. So at the beginning of September, President Trump said that as of October 5th, the government will no longer be accepting DACA renewals. This means that now, these 800,000 people again face deportation, which especially sucks for the quarter of them that have U.S.-born children. Those children are citizens, so this could really break up families. And unless you're, I don't know, an angsty preteen, no one wants to be separated from their parents. Obama has called it cruel, self-defeating, and wrong. This New York Times op-ed says there is no upside whatsoever to this cruelty, unless you just want to have fewer people with brown skin and Hispanic surnames around, which is, of course, what this is really all about. And Hector Barreto, chairman of the Latino Coalition, said that Trump was right to end DACA. Wait, what? Okay. Well, leading Latino conservatives have said, "We have been encouraged by President Trump's comments about the future of undocumented immigrants who have benefited from DACA." Whoa. Hold el teléfono for just 1 second. Shouldn't you people be against Trump on this? And by you people, I don't mean you people in a racial way. Roll the Trump clips.
We are going to deal with DACA with heart. We're going to show great heart. You know, I love these kids. I love kids.
I have the greatest love. Seriously, it's the best. It's huge. But so what's going on? There are Latino American leaders in favor of Trump's decision to end DACA, and apparently Jimmy Carter? It turns out there's more to this story than the "Trump is a bigot and racist" tagline. DACA is not immediately ending. The government will stop accepting DACA renewals on October 5th. But those applications submitted before then will still be in effect. The program will not be fully phased out until March 2020. So most DACA recipients are in no immediate danger of deportation or even losing their work status. Also, let's face it, deporting 800,000 people all at once would be a logistical nightmare, even if you think that's the right thing to do. And remember all that information dreamers were a little freaked out about giving to the government, but the Obama administration was all like, "Don't worry, this will never come back to bite you." Turns out, well, it actually isn't coming back to bite them. The Department of Homeland Security said it will not proactively provide information from DACA applications to its enforcement arms for deportation purposes. And President Trump has also assured DACA recipients that they are not priorities for deportation. "I'm not going to just cut DACA off, but rather provide a window of opportunity for Congress to finally act." That window was 6 months. Congress needs to come up with a law that will resolve the weird legal limbo dreamers have found themselves in. Yes, a legal limbo. That wasn't just Ted Kennedy's favorite pastime. You see, there are a couple of problems with DACA. Obama created DACA in 2012 after Congress failed to pass any legislation to deal with the dreamer issue. This way, they could at least get jobs legally and avoid deportation. But even though DACA recipients have access to Social Security, Medicare, and some tax credits, they have no way to become citizens and will never have access to most forms of welfare, Medicaid, or other benefits of being citizens. DACA was only supposed to be a temporary solution, and that's according to Obama himself.
Let's be clear, this is not amnesty, this is not immunity, this is not a path to citizenship. It's not a permanent fix. This is a temporary stopgap measure.
Yes, DACA was supposed to be like a dream that you hopefully wake up from and find yourself in a country where Congress will actually pass legislation rather than just kind of futzing around trying to avoid doing their job so they don't have to make controversial decisions that could cost them come election time. And that's the second problem with DACA. It's not a law. In the U.S. government, it's the legislative branch, i.e. Congress, that creates laws. DACA was just an executive order that could be overturned at any time by any future president. So with DACA, Dreamers never had any real safety. And there is serious concern about whether the DACA executive order was even constitutional. The way that argument goes is Obama essentially bypassed Congress, creating a new law himself. Well, according to an influential U.S. politician, he might have. His name? Barack Obama. In October 2010, Obama's response to calls to make immigration reforms himself was, "I am not king. I can't do these things just by myself." In March 2011, he said pretty much the same thing. And again in May 2011. But then something magical happened. Obama transformed from a first-term president to a second-term president. And then he said, screw y'all, I'm doing this. In 2014, he even wanted to expand DACA to cover other illegal immigrants, but that was hugely controversial and got blocked by the courts. Was DACA unconstitutional? Well, there are mixed views on that. Certainly no court has ruled that it was, but it's an important debate to have. Even if you believe in principle with what Obama did, there is a reason why these things should go through Congress. For example, if President Trump wanted Congress to change environmental laws, and they didn't, would you want him to have the power to just do it on his own? Another controversy about this whole thing is the impact of DACA on the United States. This is what Attorney General Jeff Sessions had to say when he announced the end of DACA.
We are people of compassion and we are people of law. But there is nothing compassionate about the failure to enforce immigration laws. Enforcing the law saves lives, protects communities and taxpayers, and prevents human suffering. Failure to enforce the laws in the past has put our nation at risk of crime, violence, and terrorism.
Those are pretty typical criticisms of illegal immigration. Do they apply to DACA recipients who are technically illegal immigrants, but with an asterisk? Some would say no. DACA recipients are different from other illegal immigrants who mainly do manual labor. The average DACA recipient is 22 years old, employed in white-collar jobs, and earns about $17 an hour. The majority are still students, and 17% are pursuing an advanced degree. Others would say that's exactly the problem. They're competing with American citizens for spaces in schools, and where are these 22-year-olds finding jobs that pay $17 an hour? At that age, I was asking, would you like fries with that? Starbucks eventually fired me. But the thing is, no one really knows, good or bad, what the economic impact of DACA is. According to the Cato Institute, a DC-based think tank, little research has been done on the effects of DACA itself. There are claims that deporting DACA recipients would cost the U.S. billions of dollars, though that's a drop in the bucket next to the roughly $19 trillion a year in GDP. But those figures are questionable at best. One that's thrown around is $433 billion over the next 10 years. That figure comes from a study by the Center for American Progress, a progressive advocacy organization founded by John Podesta. I think it's safe to say where they sit on the political spectrum. But the way they get that $433 billion figure is by using a survey of 0.1% of DACA recipients, a lot of fuzzy math, and some major assumptions about the illegal immigrant population as a whole. I included the link in the description below if you want to check it out for yourself. The Cato Institute that I mentioned earlier, which leans more libertarian, has a different figure. If all the DACA recipients are immediately deported, it will cost $60 billion to the federal government, along with $280 billion reduction in economic growth over the next decade. But again, they get that number by saying, well, DACA recipients are kind of like other groups of legal immigrants. If those legal immigrants were suddenly gone, it would cost the country about that much, so the same must be true for DACA. The Cato Institute's conclusion is legalizing unauthorized immigrants and allowing them to participate in society as legal workers dramatically reduces government enforcement costs and generates broader economic benefits. In other words, all unauthorized immigrants, that's a more politically correct term for illegal immigrants, should just be made legal citizens. More people working more jobs means more money, means bigger economy. It's like a buffet. When more people come, the buffet has to put out more food. They make more money, and we all get fat. Some people might not agree that's how the economy works. And historically, U.S. citizens, and really most countries on Earth, have never supported totally open borders. The point is, no one really knows what the economic cost will be if DACA is repealed. But one thing is clear: the human cost. After the 6 months are up, 800,000 people will potentially face deportation to countries they barely remember, and many can't even speak the language. These are realities President Trump has now forced Congress to deal with, something they should have done years ago. So what do you think about the end of DACA? Leave your comments below. Thanks for watching America Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. See you next time.